Hi guys, well, here we are, part two of the Mosaic butterfly mosaic. So this is May 2021. Last episode we did the border. Just turn the light down a little bit. Hang on, it's a bit bright. Okay, that's a bit better. Okay, last episode we did the bordering of the wings and we did the body. So in this episode we are going to do the outside border, and then I thought I'll border around the outside of the wings. So again, that will help firm up the idea of the angles and cutting the shapes for the wings. So basically we're doing the same sort of thing, but obviously going outside it's slightly bigger, which also makes it slightly easier, which is always nice. But because this here, I've got a printing, because this top of this wing here is fairly close to the edge, and we want to put the border in first. So I want to put the border in, and then I'll know the size of the gap for the background, because when I do the bordering of the wing, that's going to fill that area. So if I don't put this in, then I don't know the size for my border. So I might as well do my bordering first around the outside edge, and then take it from there. So in this video, that's what we're going to be covering. I'll do that, and then I'll talk some more about the other stuff. I've launched my Patreon site, which hopefully you've joined. I'm going to be doing this every month, so I'm going to be doing a different mosaic a month. So, you know, at least we'll end up with lots of mosaics. And you'll be able to follow again this process next month until we've got some great mosaics on the go. And we'll do some more, you know, as we grow, we're going to do more complicated things. So let's do this for today, and that's that section done. And then we'll move on to the background, filling in the grouting process in the next couple of videos. So let's do the outside edge. So I've picked this orange, got some nice orange here. It's cut randomly, so I need to square off the ends. I don't want points. So I'm going to square off those ends. Now, bordering, you don't have to have a border. It's not compulsory in mosaics. But, you know, a lot of mosaics do have borders because it finishes it off, it frames the artwork, and it also makes it a little bit easier when you're doing the background in here. Because you've got the gap for the grout, it gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're finishing up to the border. So if I was finishing to the edge with different shapes going in different ways, I would have to make sure that every one of those pieces is cut perfectly straight to match the border, to match the wood. Otherwise they're all going to be hanging off the edge, or they're not going to be quite on enough. And you're going to have like grout in there, and eventually the grout will wear out. So having a border, you know, tidies that up, gets rid of that problem, and it gives you a bit more room, gives you a little bit of wiggle room when you're working your border up, when you're working your background up. But you know, you've got a bit more give, you know, for not mistakes, but you know, when you've got lots of different pieces in the background against the border, it just gives you a little bit more wiggle room to get it right. So that's why we like a border. So as I showed you in the previous video with the scoring pen, I've scored this down from a bigger sheet. I could go smaller, you know, I could score them again. So once I've got them down, I would say that's about 1 centimetre. I could halve them again, so they're about 0.5 centimetre. so they're nice and thin. So you could have a nice thin border. But as I said before, what I'm really looking at is making sure that whatever I do, however thin I want it, I've got a gap for the grout. So I'll do a thin border just to give you a bit more practice with the cutting. But you know, I could easily have a border that thick, no problem. So again, what you can do, because we know the size of the board, we can work out how many pieces to break it into. You could put long pieces. Like if I want long pieces, I'll have to cut a couple more skinny bits. So if I've got long pieces, I don't want two long pieces and then have a gap where I've got to put in a small piece. You know, that's not going to look great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. We can do better than that. So what you want to do is work out, like in your mind, how many pieces it's going to take to fill up the border. So those two pieces are a bit too short. So if I break these in half, so I'm making sure they're roughly the same roughly the same length. I'm going to try again, but this is before gluing. I know I was saying glue as you go, it's one of my favourite sayings, but just when we're working out the border, you can just try and work out that the pieces are going to look roughly the same size. I'm just going to do a few more. So I can see that that's roughly going to be 5 bits. So 3, 4, 5. What do you think? I could a little bit more of that one. So how about that? So I would say that's about right. So see that? So that's 5 bits. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not too long, not too short. You could break them up again. You can do tiny bits. You don't want to go too tiny because you've got the grouts to think about, and then it is the border. So if you've got two tiny bits, it's going to be mostly grout. So you want it a fair size, not too long, not too hot, not too cold, but just right. So that's 5 bits. So I know, obviously, this is going to be roughly the same. This is going to be 5 bits, this is going to be 5 bits, this is going to be 5 bits. So I'll cut some more strips because I decided to do it thinner. So I'm going to need a few more. That bit, see, because I'm doing thin, sometimes it just doesn't work out. So you take your losses. You might get these bits in somewhere else. Again, I'm just going to score this in half. Again, it hasn't quite broken, but I'll just get rid of that bit. So these bits I'm going to use. So I know that it's going to be 5, 5, 5. Now on my mosaics, I always go to the end and then I would start the next one down from there. Some people do mitering where they've got an angle. My friend Andrew loves a mitered corner. So I'm putting an angle, 45-degree angle on that piece. And then I would have to put a 45 angle on this piece and get them to match up. So it can take a couple of goes. It does actually give quite a nice finish. I know Andrew loves a nice finish. So you have a little angle. It's a little bit more advanced. So we'll do it like that. So again, these pieces are sliding around, so I know that that's going to be, that's pretty much how I want it. So I'm going to glue those down, because we glue as we go. So a nice smooth run of glue. We don't want lumps, but we want enough that the glass is going to sit in the glue and fix. I get it on the table. Can't tell the missus. Okay. So let's put that on. That's one. Because I'm doing these mited edge, I'm going to put that one at that end. I'm going to put one there. So again, I'm making sure that the widths are roughly the same. So I'm matching those up. It doesn't matter if it goes slightly thin to fat to thin, like very, very slightly. But the main thing is that it's got a flow. So as long as the pieces of thickness are the same, it's going to look good. So I'm looking at my bits here and I'm finding a bit that's the same sort of fatness, width. I'm going to pop it on there. I'm just measuring out the size of the bit I need. So I'm looking at the glass and seeing roughly the size. There you go. That's it. Okay, I'm going to take a close look. So it's 5 bits. They're all roughly the same width, and I've glued them right to the edge. You don't want them hanging too far in, because you'll end up with a piece of wood showing when we grout it. So you push it right to the edge, we get a nice finish, nice smooth edge. Okay. So I'm going to do the same. I'm going to carry on. I'm going to come down here. Oh, too much glue. So thin that out. So if you put too much on and it dries in between the glass, you're not going to get your grout in. So you make sure that's nice and smooth. So I want, because I'm doing the mitered corners, I want an angle to match. That's not very good. This is why I don't do mitered corners, because they can be a little bit tricky, but I think that's okay. So it's 2 bits. Oh, blimey. Oh, knocked a bit on. Okay, it's 3 bits. So I'm judging the gap, so I'm going to have half and half. So that maybe that bit was a little bit long, so I could shorten that one. Move that up. So I want 2 more pieces in there. And 1 more piece in the bottom. So I'll just put the on. I'm not going to glue that in because I want to see, I'm judging where I need to cut. Okay, that's about right to the end, and then I'm going to put the angle on the end for the mitered corner. Okay. It's not. Okay. So again, because we've got the grout, you've got that little gap. You've got that little gap that gives you a little bit of space just to make sure, just to get it right. So once you've glued the board, yeah, you've got that little gap, you can spread them out so they're nice and even. Okay, I'm going to go along the bottom. Going to need some more bits. Turn that around. So I'm going to split these in two with the scoring pen. Pushing down, pushing across the glass, getting that nice scoring. Putting it in the wheels. It doesn't work. Try it the other end. Okay, so that broke. Got there in the end. Need another bit. Score, score, score. Okay, it's enough to get it along here, so let's do that. Wow. Glue to the edge. Glue protects the wood, so don't worry about being too precise. So again, looking at what you've done before, we can judge roughly the size of the pieces that we want to make it 5. So it's 5 on each side. So that's one bit. Next bit. So I'm squaring, like, where I've cut the glass, if I've got any, like, if it's not, you know, if I've got angles or it's not great pieces, then I'm just tidying them up into the bits that I need. So I'm getting rid of any angly bits or rubbishy bits where I've cut it. So that's 3. Like, some people would want these measured out perfectly, so they're all perfect. So you could do that. You could work out your distance. That was 25 centimeters divided by 5 is 5 centimeters. Plus you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeters gap. So you know it's like 4.9. You know, if you cut every piece 4.9 centimeters, then you would have probably the right size pieces to for the borders. So if you want it precisely like that, you can do that. Personally, I've never done that. But if you like, because I like it to look a little bit more natural. We don't want the mosaic to look like it's been made by a machine. So I'm not too worried about it being absolutely precise. But if you're that way inclined, then please do. That piece that I just tried didn't break, so try a little bit. Okay, that's better. So I've got some bits there to use. Always keep a tidy workstation is my other motto. So I'm just going to get rid of those orange bits over there. Mind your fingers. There we go, look, that's tidy. Let's bring that into the middle. Okay, so I've got one more bit to go on the end. So again, I'm just wiggling those in the glue, make sure they're flush to the edge. I'm just going to do this last piece. So I'm just judging, I'm just giving myself a little bit extra because I can always, you know, if the bit is a little bit too long, then I can shorten it. But obviously if it's too short, then it's not going to work. So that's not bad. So I can live with that, I'm happy with that. So that's 3 sides done. So last side. So again, we're just gluing along there. PVA glue, wood glue. Plenty. Like if this glue dries, if it dries and your pieces aren't sticking, obviously just re-glue. So I've done a piece in there, done my mitered ends for Andrew. I just spotted that bit, it was perfect. It's got a little bit of an angle on this end, so I was just squaring off the ends. I don't want any angles on these pieces because they're straight lines. That's 4. I need one more bit. Have I got? I'm looking through my bits. Maybe that bit will do. No, I've got that too short. These mitered ends are a bit of a pain in the bum. That's probably why I don't do them normally. Okay. So to show you that a mistake that I've made. Can you see that? So this bit is much thicker than the end of this bit. So I've got a corner. So when I come to do my background, I don't want to be working around a corner. You'll see this better when it dries, but that corner you can't have that. So I'm better off replacing this bit with a thicker bit that's going to match. He says. So I'm looking for another bit now that's the right thickness. Okay, so that bit I can live with that. That's about right. So I'm judging where I need to cut that. Okay, that's better. Happy with that. Okay, I'll just have another look. Okay, so I've replaced that second piece. And you can see obviously that this bit now is the same thickness as this bit. So it's not going to cause us any problems when it comes to doing the background. Okay. So as these pieces dry, especially on the edge, they can get knocked a little bit and then they'll be slightly off. So you need to keep checking them until they're solid, until they're dried solid, and just go around and make sure they all run. Like I say, I'm more interested that all the pieces run in thickness onto each other, and then, you know, when we grout that, it's going to look like one. People are probably wondering, I was going to cut the board here and do a smaller one, so because we've got a bit more time, I'm going to do some flowers down here. So there's going to be flowers here. This is why that line is there, just in case anyone was wondering from the last video. So that's good. So I'm pleased with my border. It's a nice complementary colour to the butterfly. Like I say, we're going to put some flowers down here maybe. We'll show you some little flowers and we're going to put some background in. So to help you, because we're actually doing the hard bits first with the bordering. So I'm going to do more bordering, so it helps you, and I'm going to go around the outside edge of the wings. So I found some white pieces that I'm going to use. Obviously white is a nice neutral colour to separate the wings from the background. So you could, like, if I border this in white, I could put another darker colour here, and it would be separate. So you'll still see the butterfly. So I could do dark tone red wings with a white, and then do a white bordering, and then have a dark blue here. Because it's been separated by the white, it's going to look good. If I put dark blue against the dark red, then you're not going to see the butterfly. It's not going to be so good. So pretty much it was the Romans, you know, they loved bordering. So for separation of the images and to, you know, improve clarity and okay. So bordering. So I'm going to do a bit more bordering. It doesn't really matter where you start. So I'm starting in here just for the sake of it. So obviously I've got a very tricky gap to get in there. That's not too bad though, is it? That bit. So again, I mean, because this is curved, I've taken bites to make that curve. But I'm only going to use the end, so where it starts to go off track, because this is a straight piece, where it starts to go off track, about, well, I could do a small piece or a piece there. One of the golden rules is that you don't want your grout gap to match. So if I cut it there and this matched with this grout gap, when I grout my mosaic, I'm going to have a grout line through my picture, and we don't want that, do we? So I can either cut it there, past this gap, or just before. Haven't decided yet. I'm just nibbling away at this end bit, because the more I can get into the gap, the better it's going to look. Again, if I don't get into that little gap, it's going to be filled with grout, which isn't, you know, which isn't the end of the world. But if we can get a piece of glass in there, then that's going to look better. Okay, so here we go. So I'm confident that I can get all this bit done up here, across here. Okay, so I think I'm going to go short. So I've gone very short, so I've just cut straight across there really, and then I'm just going to stick that bit in as best as I can. It's quite hard to see the white against the white glue, but there's not really much I can do about that, so I'll try and lift it up as much as possible. Okay. So even though this has got a slight curve to it, to me that's fairly straight. So you just need a slight angle on the far end, on the top end, just to make it turn. Again, I'm going past the gap, past the grout gap on this red, because I don't want it to match up. So this is like brickwork, so it blocks off the mosaic and blocks off the design. So there, it's matched. That piece I've cut matches this grout, so that's no good. So I need to shorten it so the gap is before that gap. Well, that seems a bit wasteful, but there you go. Now these whites are slightly different colour, but that's okay. Okay, so again, when I've got to the end, I could do a similar thing here. So I can go past this end, and then I'm going to come down underneath it. And do one more, and then I'm going to go along. So I'm going to go past the end. So I've just gone. Oh, you let the dogs out. So I've gone far enough past the end that I've got enough at the bottom here that I can put my bit underneath there. And I've also left quite a nice gap here for me to do a bit of a nice triangle-y piece in there. So this has hit the edge here, that's why we did the bordering first. So that can stop there, and then this is obviously, I don't know what I'm going to do, whether I'm going to do a different colour in here. But can you see I've gone past this end far enough that I can put the same sort of width, and I can match that line there and come down here. Clever. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put some glue there. So I'm looking for a piece that's the right thickness that's going to sit there. Just happened to find a piece that's exactly right, which is always nice when you find the perfect piece without having to do anything. Again, can you see this piece matches? So you can, if it doesn't quite match, you want it to match as best you can, so push those out. You know, you've got a little bit of gap just to wiggle them into place. So you can see that this now forms the line with this piece. And I'm going to come down. Because I've got a turn here, I'm going to put an angly bit in here. And that's also going to cover this gap. So I want a small piece with an angle to get around this little bend. He says. Really subtle though, it doesn't have, like when you do the angles, like so, they're usually subtle. If they're too strong, then it's too much. So it's subtle, that'll do, that's okay. So I've just put a little piece in there, just to get it back, going in the direction I want it to. And it's also just blocked off this grout gap. Again, if the grout gaps match up, you need to shorten the piece or lengthen the piece. You know, you've got hundreds of grout gaps, so you know you're probably not going to try and do your best. But if you've got the odd one or two that match up, then you know that's life. But on the bordering, if you're doing this extra bordering, then you really want to cover those gaps, because it will show when we do the final, when we grout it. And once you grout it, you don't really want to be digging the grout out and changing it. So the more you can cover those grout gaps, the better. So again, I'm just wiggling these into the best place, best shapes I can. So that's okay. On this one, I've just finished this line and it's gone behind this bit. So now I'm going to start the next bit from here and come down here. Again, you know, because we've done thinner on here, you could go slightly thinner with the glass. I've found I've got a skinny bit of glass here. Okay, so this is fairly straight. So there's going to be square bits, square rectangle bits down here. So we come down. Again. So that grout gap matched up. So I'll shorten that bit, move this bit up. So then that covers the gaps. Now a slight turn here, so I'm going to put a slight angle in this one to make it turn. And like here, I'm going to go beyond. So I'm going to go beyond with an angle, and then I'm going to leave myself, I'm going to go beyond here, I'm going to finish with an angle, and then I'm going to leave myself enough that this bit goes behind it. He says. So it's quite important you have nice sharp angles on the ends, because these are the bits, you know, these are the finishes that people notice. So there, I haven't really got enough, and I've got a tiny bit. So I want it a bit longer, so I'm going to go longer. Again, I'm going to find that this bit's longer. I might have a couple of goes at making my end piece because I want a nice sharp point. Okay, that'll do. I can live with that. I'll show you there. So you can see I've gone beyond. So I've gone beyond the end and I've left myself a gap. I can do a nice line here under there. I'm going to put this on, I'll put a nice picture on at the end as well, so when the glue's dry it's a bit more clearer to see. So that's going to go there. If you put too much glue on, spread it out, let it dry, we don't want any lumps, that's the main thing. So I'm just going to come under this bit. Could do maybe a skinny bit. First. Cut that in two. So I need to put an angle on there. I've put an angle on the end of this next one, and then I've matched it up with that. Oh, it's tricky, isn't it? Tricky. So this one, I've put an angle on the end here, beyond, and I've put myself a little gap. And then this one, I've done the same thing, but put an angle on there, and then this line matches. Okay. Again, cutting the pieces, trying not to get the grout gaps to match. Trying to cut a nice piece in that end bit so it sits in there as close to the body as we can get. Not bad. Can't really see white on white. You see that piece in there? You can see what's glued. See, I've cut that angle. Probably need to go around the bottom as well. What we could do this side first and then we'll work around the bottom bit here. So again, you want it to kind of match the size, the pieces to match the other side. So I've cut a similar piece. Can just about get away with that. Just big enough to get past a grout gap. Putting a slight. Oops. Sometimes you'll get like a piece of glass, a piece of like a crushed bit of glass that gets stuck to the board, and your glass won't stick. You know, you'll feel the glass. There's something under the glass, and the glass won't stick to the board. So you just need to just clear that away. So I could go longer here and then match this side up, but I kind of want it to match this side. So I'm going to do this first and come past, and then I'll know where I need this bit to be. Or I could do that. That's quite get away with that. So what I've done there, so I've ended this white piece so it matches the red. So when I do the end here, I'm going to go past there, and then I'm going to put an angle on this piece, and that's going to match. So the sides will match. That makes sense? So I've matched this line up with this. And then when I come down here, I'm going to finish, and I'm going to put an angle on there, and that's going to match up with this. So really, because I don't want to put this bit, if I want my sides to match, then really what I should have done, scrap that last 10 minutes. I should have really started here and come down here so it matches. If you want your side, it doesn't matter it really doesn't matter if it doesn't match, but you know, it probably looks better if it does. So what we'll do, I'll do it properly. So I'll start from here, I'll go up here so it matches this side, and then I'll come down here so I can work in like this side, and then I'm going to finish there. It says. So let's go here. So again, you want a nice piece to sit in there. I'm going to take a bite out of the glass to make it sit in there as best it can against the head. To give it a little nibble. That's pretty good. Again, so it matches the other side. I'm going to go short. So I've come short of this grout gap. So there's a grout gap there. So I've come short, so the next piece will cover that gap. Just like brickwork, so you put your piece on there, work out how to get it looking like brickwork. Again, there's a slight curve, so you need a little angle just to make it turn a little bit. So you put a very slight angle on the end of the glass. And like we did here, we're going to finish slightly beyond. Another one, so that covers that. Could this bit be the perfect bit? It's not quite. So really that bit. This is a bit tatty. I'm just going to sharpen it up a little bit. As I say, you want a nice sharp finish to your point. So I'm going to put that beyond, because we want enough, and then I'm going to find a square bit to put in there. Okay, so I've gone beyond, so it matches this side, I've gone beyond the end, and then I kind of work down here. I haven't got much of a gap because it hits the border. It's going to be quite a skinny bit to start with, so I look for a skinny bit. And I'm going to put that on there. Oops. I'm going to put an angle because it's got a, because I want it to turn, I've put a little angle on the end. Shorten that bit. In fact, I don't know, let me do this again. I don't know, I'm going to change that. So I've made that bit, I've put a less of a point on the end so I can get more glass. Okay. So because it hits the border here, because I've got a very sharp end, it wasn't giving me enough so I could get a piece underneath it. So I've just made it a less shallow angle, but still a nice point. So I can get my piece underneath it is a bit, I can get a bigger piece underneath it, so it looks better. There you go. My glue's dried a little bit. I'm going to re-glue. So I'm always looking for bits that are the right thickness, because it's important that the bits are the same thickness as we go along. And when you have these bends, turns, the pieces are going to get smaller to get around the bends. You can't put a long piece in. Okay, so that bit goes in there. Okay, so I'm happy with that bit. Pretty good, pretty good. I'm going to do my final bit, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go slightly beyond, as I showed you before, with an angle. Again, if you've got too much glue, just spread it out so it doesn't dry in a lump. This was quite skinny, so a couple of skinny bits. So I need to start with an angle piece to match that bit. But this is too long, so again I need a tiny bit really to start it off. And then go slightly bigger. Okay, so tiny. Remember the angles, one end, so it turns, it's the glass turn, and once you're round that angle, then that's it, you don't need any more. So it's just getting round the angle. Now finally the last bit on here, put it on, so it's longer, and then I need just to make an angle on the end here that's going to match up to this piece. Oof. There's too much angle on this piece. Okay, that's better. Okay, and again, it's just can take a little bit of nibbling just to smooth out any bites or lumps. And that's that. There we go. So you can see how that matches up. So what I'll do, I'm going to let this dry, then I'll post a nice clear picture so you can see the work. But that's not bad, not too bad. Seen worse. So again, just wiggle these as they dry. Just keep moving them so they run. Yeah. So it's more important that it flows. It's more important that these pieces run onto each other, because when we grout it, it will form a nice clear line. If they're slightly all off, then it's not going to look so good. So even if you come away from your design slightly, or the edge, like if it doesn't, as long as these pieces are the right thickness and width, and they run onto each other, happy days. So there you go. That was a good little session there. Oh, I haven't done around the body. So around here, because So we want a little bit around here, but again, this is going to be most triangles. Ooh, the antennae are tricky, aren't they, to get around? I'm not sure what we're going to do there. Let's do the bottom first. Do butterflies have bottoms? I'm not sure. So again, you don't really want it too thick. Well, you could have it thick, but let's try it thick. So I know it's going to be quite sharp angles to get it round here. It's going to be small pieces with sharp angles. But it's still the same principle. A square, a flat, with an angle on an end. But small pieces. They've got to be small here because they're against the body, so they can't be big pieces around this bottom bit. So they're always going to be small at the end, at the top end, and fat, as fat as you can, to make it turn. And you might have to trim them a little bit, because as it turns, obviously pieces get wider. I'm just going to do this bit and then I'll show you what I'm doing. Too bad. It's pretty tricky, that. Okay, let me show you what I've done. Don't know if I'm entirely happy with it. I might change it. So I've done the same principle as here. So I've done triangly bits. So triangly bit, triangly, because we've only got a small bit here. And what you need to do when you hit this bit, you've got to pretend that that's not there, and you've got to pretend that this keeping going. So I've cut that one with that angle, so it sits there, and I've put another piece in there. I could have put a whole piece in there, but that's going to look a bit odd. So you've got to imagine that this carries on. So even though that bit's there, you need to cut an angle there to make it look like it carries on around the body. Okay. Okay, well, I think that's enough for today, because I need to think about the antennae. Because these are quite skinny pieces, it's quite hard to do bordering around them, and especially when we've done this bordering here. So we could put, when we decide what colour or colour we're going to do in the background here, we could, because we've got these nice skinny diamond shapes, we could put that as a background colour. Because we've been clever and done this black, you know, these are going to stand out. If these were like a mid colour, then we'd be in trouble. But because we've done them black, they're nice and clear. So I'll do some bordering around there, but I'm going to use very skinny pieces. So I'm going to have very thin, skinny pieces around here. So I need to sort those out. So we're gonna cross that bridge next time. Okay, and then I'm also going to draw out the flowers at the bottom here, and we'll take it from there. So there we go. So that's an hour's session on bordering. I hope that made sense. Please message me any questions or queries. And so part 3, we will go around the antennae, and I'll just go back over some of the information I've given you today. We'll do the filling in of the wings, and then we'll look at the flowers and the background. And the 4th session, we'll finish the background, the top bit, and then we'll talk about the grousing. So I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know any thoughts or queries. Have a look at my new Patreon page. It's Vida Mosaics, or the Facebook page Vida Mosaics. And until next time, toodaloo. All right, thanks very much. Bye-bye.